All right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. We have a packed lineup for you tonight. We're actually going to try a roundtable type discussion podcast. So this should be interesting. We'll see if it works. If not, then you're in for a lot of comedy. Before we get started, though, I need to thank our sponsors. Our list is growing by the day. Let's start with Robin Winston. Robin was there when we sent out our first email with 147 subscribers. We now have 108,000. He was instrumental in getting this podcast started. So thank you, Robin Winston. Jill Long Thompson, been with us from the start, so we appreciate Jill's sponsorship. Her newest book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Make sure you pick that up anywhere books are sold or where you buy your books. Next up, Senator Evan Bayh. Thank you, Senator, for two-term senator, two-term governor. Glad to have him on board. Congressman Andre Carson, welcome. Appreciate all of your support. Longtime supporter of the newsletter, now on board with the podcast. State Representative Cherish Pryor, longtime sponsor. State Senator Greg Taylor, appreciate all his support. A couple new ones. We have the Indiana Citizen, great writing done over there. We'll put a link below if you're on watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link below. Same if you're watching it on Facebook. And our newest sponsor, and we're glad to have them on board, Jump Laundry. We'll have a link below, but I mean, they do your dry cleaning. They'll come and pick your laundry up, do it for you without any judgment, I might add, and get it back to you. So the sponsorship grows. We might have to come up with some other way to do this because, man, it's getting long. It looks like we lost Alex. There he is. I spoke too soon. But joining us tonight, we'll just go from how it looks on my computer. We'll start with Representative Alex Burton. Welcome to the show tonight.
Thanks so much for having me. Greatly appreciated and excited for the conversation we'll have.
Second time on, so thank you. Dr. Terry Goodin has decided to come back after the bull semen debate from last week.
Right. Thanks for having me, Gary.
I didn't think you'd answer my calls again. And then we have IndyStar columnist James Briggs. James, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll take it easy on you tonight. You said you're a little bit under the weather because you have kids, and when you have kids, you're always sick. Well, I want to start tonight with tariffs, recession. I had a great conversation earlier this week with Dr. Michael Hicks from Ball State University. He says that if we're not already in a recession, we are about ready to be. And when I was talking to him, and I kind of opine that, the 145% tariff that Trump put on everything from China, I told him that I think the 30% tariffs are actually probably worse for working class Hoosiers, simply because at 145%, you don't have anything to buy. It's basically an embargo. You may not have choice, but there's nothing to buy. At 30%, you're going to buy it. You're just paying 30% more. And I think Walmart came out today on their call for earnings and said, yes, we can eat 2 or 3%, but you're going to be paying 30% more. Basically, the White House is kind of trying to push back on that. But we'll start with you, James. Your thoughts on the tariffs and recession, and what are you seeing and hearing when you get ready to write your columns?
Yeah, I think this is indicative of the challenge that all media has right now, which is accurately explaining what is happening in a way that is digestible to the general public. And the tariff issue in particular is just so complicated. I mean, who even knows what the word tariff means to begin with? So that's why I try to make it clear that is a tax on imported goods, first of all. Like, that's how to characterize it. But then even for people, and you see this online, every time there's a new announcement, you see experts like, Michael Hicks, who you mentioned, trying to just catch up to what was just announced, because you mentioned the new tariff rate on China, but some of those tariffs, many of those tariffs are actually lopped onto other tariffs too. And so just figuring out what the rate is at any given time is nearly impossible, no matter where we're at. And there's a chart going around that shows just these crazy lines that have shown 50 plus tariff policy changes since Trump took office in January. No matter where that stands right now, is the highest tariff rate the U.S. has faced in anyone's living memory. No one is alive on this earth to have seen such a high tariff rate in the U.S. And these are taxes on businesses that now have to decide, do we pass those costs on to consumers? How quickly do we do it? What percentage do we pass on? And then they have to make that decision not knowing what the tariff rate will be tomorrow or the next day or the next week or the next month. I mean, again, going back to my first point on the media, all the headlines sort of said Trump caves and the markets go crazy. But he only put a 90-day pause on those 145% tariffs on China. So we're going to be in 3 months. We could be back to 145%. We could be at 30%, 20, 0. We have no idea. And how does any business make any decision in this sort of environment?
Terry, James brings up a great point because, people hear tariffs, they hear all kinds of explanations, but it really doesn't hit them until they go to the Walmart and they try to buy more pajamas so they have something to wear to the Walmart tomorrow. And they're paying 30% more for those pajama pants and slippers.
I agree, Gary, and James hit it right on the head. And one thing that the business does not like is that's uncertainty. And what the extensions do and what Trump has put into the market is uncertainty. And there's no way to make any real predictions on what's going to happen next, as James said. And when that happens, it's tough for businesses to be able to move forward in a long-term fashion because they don't know what tomorrow may bring. I mean, at 10 o'clock in the morning, President Trump may say that there's going to be a 40% tariff. And then at 6 o'clock that evening, he may say, no, it's going to be 90%. So who knows what's going to happen? And that uncertainty has just really brought down not just the business cycle, but it's brought down the economic markets with the stock markets and all those traded funds. There's just that uncertainty that has just really got everyone in flux. And I think really at the end of the day, China finally said, hey, we're going to quit playing games with this guy. And the other countries are going to quit playing games with this guy. And they just called his bluff. And I think now that they've called his bluff, I mean, he's having to come back to the table and reinstate tariff duties that were already in place, such as the one what he resolved with Britain. I don't think there was anything new. Please help me out here, but the tariff that was negotiated, the new tariff that was negotiated with England, Great Britain, is the same tariff that was on before he announced the new tariffs. So really, he just defaulting back to what was before, and really all that's done is just destroy the market.
Alex, you're in the state legislature. You've had to deal with this. I mean, the rest of us right now, we're in a waiting game. We're waiting to see how much more we're going to pay when we go to the Walmart or we go to buy that new car, if we even do now. You're a legislator. You had to deal with this with a $2.4 billion shortfall, which was attributed to tariffs being put on and affecting state revenue. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the gift and the curse of our legislative session is that it happened so fast, and the year now is still moving, right? There's a whole lot of federal happenings happening right now, and we're just adjusting right now. What we're seeing federally is now beginning to make a little bit more sense to me, especially coming out of my first term. But for us, I mean, we lost 800 million between December and April. I hope we're gaining some ground now, but I'm not sure about that. And with all the uncertainty, as what's been mentioned, businesses aren't investing the way that they would had we not been in this cycle. This is now freezing a lot of people who are looking for employment. They're kind of iced out of the market at the same time when SNAP benefits and so much more is on the decline and is going to cease to exist as we know it right now. This uncertainty could have been avoided, but it isn't. And I don't know when enough chaos is enough, right? And I say that just with everything that's happening at the federal level, with the now focus on the $300 billion that looks like it's going to make its way to the budget committee that they'll eventually vote on. Like, these are real life issues, and there's going to be an impact on so many people, and there's going to be unintended consequences, and to the point of just people not really understanding all the science behind the madness or the madness that's being created, people are soon going to find out. And it's going to put people in a very interesting position, which hopefully leverages the vote to then turn away from 20-year supermajority that's crippling our state.
Before we move on, do you have something else, James?
Actually, yeah, I would love to make one more point because I think this is really, really important. Every time there's a discussion about tariffs, the chaos could end tomorrow. It could end that quickly because Congress has the ability to take this tariff power away from President Trump. And the reason it's not is because you have figures like Senator Jim Banks who wake up every day and his only principle that day is whatever Trump said. Whether he knows how bad these tariffs are or not, I don't know, but he's cheerleading them, and he is cheerleading policies that are going to make life worse for people who live in Indiana. And a lot of other Republicans are going along with it. I mean, we might get to this later, but what is Representative Jefferson Shreve doing other than personally profiting off of the chaos at the moment?
That was my next topic. Anything else on tariffs?
No, I just want to point out it can end anytime Republicans want it to, and the cult of personality around Donald Trump just prevents them from taking just the most obvious small step that could help protect America from this economic chaos.
Well, let's go around real quick. Yes or no answer. Do we see a recession? We had negative growth in the first quarter. Do we see an official recession this year, James?
Yes, but it's a much closer call, thankfully.
Dr. Goodin?
Yes, the economic statistics do prove that.
Representative Burton?
Yes.
All right, next up, you kind of brought it up a little bit, James, and I'm going to read your tweet a little bit. Here it says, Jefferson Shreve's legacy could up being a ban on members of Congress trading stocks. I've long advocated that members of Congress and the Senate should not be able to trade individual stocks. It appears that Jefferson Shreve's finance reports show that he was making millions of dollars of worth of trades, basically based on what Trump was saying about tariffs. So we'll give you the first shot, James, since we read your tweet.
So I'm actually going to be a little bit of a squish here. So a couple of things I'll say. I actually like Jefferson Shreve. I think he's a very thoughtful person, a very smart person. He didn't do anything that was like against the rules here, nothing illegal, nothing. And you can have a debate even about the ethics of it. I'm not sure. It's not even a cut and dry issue to me that what he did was unethical. So it's sort of a complicated case to talk about. And I'm not one of those people who argues all the time that people get to Congress to enrich themselves. I think often the enrichment comes after they leave Congress and they take a job on K Street or wherever. But I think generally the narrative's a little bit overblown that people go to Congress and get rich. Jefferson Shreve is already rich. He used that wealth to finally win an election, which good for him. He sure seemed to want it very badly. But I'm a little. I'm not going to go too hard on this. I think that the right move would be to ban members of Congress from making these types of trades. And again, as I tweeted, I think there's at least a chance now that there will be some momentum toward that end. And in that case, I think that it would be much easier to be critical of someone like Representative Shreve. But in this case, I think it's quite a gray area, and I'm not going to bring a hammer to him on this one.
Terry?
Yeah, he did nothing illegal, as you said before, but I think this is something that warrants to take a look at. I think at the end of the day, with the impact that Congress and the U.S. Senate has on big business and those publicly traded companies, that it only makes sense to, once you are elected, you put a freeze on what you have, or some of the experts in that field can tell us what would be the best option to do. But for them to be able to trade daily, hourly, minute by minute on things that are that they have an insight on that the rest of the public does not, it probably shouldn't take place. Like I said, he's done nothing illegal, but really this warrants that there just needs to be some fix for this.
What about you, Representative Burton?
Yeah, I surely hope the ethics committee just reviews policy and what reimagine what the norms are of members of Congress and really put the focus really on the people who deserve the attention right now in this moment as we're facing uncertain economic times.
Well, let's not forget too. And again, I've advocated when I ran for Congress. That was one of the issues I ran on. No one really cared. I don't know if they really care about this, but when you take a look at what Jefferson Shreve did, it's nothing compared to getting a $400 million jet, or Ice Barbie requesting a $5 million jet for her use so she can go around the country and change uniforms and costumes and do photo ops. So when we look at this, Trump's coin, people pouring hundreds of millions of dollars in it, it kind of makes the $1 or $2 million worth of stock trades look pretty minimal, doesn't it, James?
Yeah, and I mean, of course, I hate to do whataboutisms, but they're so they're such low hanging fruit when it comes to President Trump. But I mean, how much time did we spend having to talk about Hunter Biden? And I think there's a real story there, and I think that Hunter Biden's situation had played a role in the Biden presidency, and I think he has some detrimental effects on President Biden, no doubt. But there was just this long-standing Republican effort to try to find some proof that the president personally enriched himself, or I'm sorry, Hunter enriched himself by his proximity to the presidency, and it just never really, other than he was the president's son. I mean, there was just nothing that came out that was a smoking gun that was, corruption, to the level that Republicans made it out to be. But here with President Trump, I mean, something almost every day just vastly exceeds that, and it's all out there on the record in public. And Bill Kristol of the Bulwark this week wrote about that he thinks it's intentional that Donald Trump does all of this out in public because he wants people to know, he wants people to see it, and he wants people to kiss his ring and understand the power that he wields. And again, just like with tariffs, it's a situation where there's just such a cult around him within the Republican Party that no one is going to hold him accountable for anything. So he knows he can do whatever he wants with impunity, including take an obviously corrupt jet deal from another country that is a bad actor.
Well, and we saw Speaker Johnson come out and he was asked about this. And obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but he said Hunter Biden was done behind closed doors. They were trying to be sneaky about it. President Trump is being corrupt out in public.
Well,
Go
yeah,
ahead, Terry.
and he presented it as a
Right. Well, Donald Trump, I call him the professional wrestler president. He does everything. I think he watches Monday Night Raw and then does everything that some of those guys and gals do on wrestling and try to make people mad or try to get people's attention is what it is. So he's an actor, and he's taken that to that level, and he wants those folks around the world to think that they can buy a favor from him by doing personal favors for him. And I mean, honestly, that's been the mantra of his life. He's done that, and people who have done personal favors for him have succeeded under his watch. His whole cabinet's full of them, right? So if they allow this to continue and the Jets be bequeathed over to his personal ownership, that's just wrong. I mean, that's completely wrong, and we've got to make sure that those things don't happen. Like James said, I can't say a whole lot about the Republican Party because I'm not one, but man, you'd think somebody would step up over there and say, hey, at this point, let's start this. Let's just get this train back on the right track. We're just not going in the right direction.
Alex, have we seen a bigger grift at the federal level than what's happening now?
Um, I think the outrage is the issue at hand. And I think, I always go back to the term civility, right? In school, regardless of political party, there was always some level of civility and doing the ethical thing. But right now, what we're seeing is something different. And, if it would have, somebody would have told us everything that's going on right now would have been the reality, say 20, 30 years ago, no one would believe it. And the fact of the matter is, I think the public is so desensitized to the madness that it becomes this thing like, oh, this is just here they go attacking the president today, or can this guy just focus on doing something for the country, right? Like it's these two things happening at the same time that are just it's really mind-boggling that we're at this point in time. But it's up to all of us on this panel, but then also for the public to care about something and at least draw the line in the sand and say, hey, this is what's enough. But we just haven't reached that point yet to where people's actually care and are outraged to the level where it actually matters.
James, does anyone care? I mean, do they care about this? Are they going to start caring when they go in and their pajama pants are 30% more? Everything they buy at Walmart is 30% more. When maybe this big beautiful bill gets passed and Hoosiers start losing their health care. At what point do they start caring, or do they?
So I'm not going to present myself as a polling expert, but my read on polling since President Trump took office was that he was sort of at the height of his own popularity in January, and now he has already become quite unpopular. So I think without people really even seeing those firsthand tariff effects, I think people have already soured on the president. I mean, everyone sort of heard him talk about tariffs during the campaign, and what they heard was economy of 2019, and that's what they expected. And that's not what we're getting. We're getting just absolute. So, I mean, I think people to a large extent want to sort of live their lives, but every day we're seeing stories, even if you don't consume news actively, but you're just sort of walking through a room that has TVs on, you're seeing like red charts on the screen and bond market chaos and a lot of bad headlines that I think just cause sort of an unsettling feeling for people. And that's before we really get to any of those really, really negative effects. I mean, remember, I think the economy, I would argue, and others, including Michael Hicks, have argued was really, really strong going into the last election, but people were mad about inflation, about the weirdness that followed COVID-19. It was hard to like find things on shelves back then. And so if we return to some of those things that really made people mad, I think that's only going to be much worse for the president's popularity. And my sincere hope is that gives some cover to Republicans who I know would like to do something about this, but just feel like they can't, whether for reasons of personal security in some cases. I think some of them actually fear for their safety if they were to stand up to Trump, or their ambition, their opportunism, whatever it may be. I hope that sliding popularity for President Trump will cause some Republicans to step up and take some action. I don't expect it next week or anything, but my hope is that that's hopefully within the next, especially as they start to see midterm polling.
Terry, when we talk about airplanes, or we talk about bitcoins and golf courses and playing golf, is that just static to take the focus away from what is about to happen with tariffs and losing health care and people losing food stamps? I mean, you can go down the line on what this does. This big, beautiful budget bill does. Is everything just static? Is it just noise to take the focus off of what's coming?
I think his whole plan is just to keep people in turmoil. And if you stay in turmoil, you never get your feet on the ground. You can't really focus. So I think it's all noise. It's all static. But unfortunately, in a position as president of the United States, when you say something, it has an impact. And unfortunately for the United States of America, that impact has been negative. You've had folks on your show, Gary, and I've read in James's article as well about we're in a trade war now with 188 countries, right? And
Mm-hmm.
188 countries are in a trade war against us. And that's a big deal. And when people can't trust the United States of America overseas, I saw a poll today where people trusted China in a worldwide poll. They trusted China more than they trusted the United States of America when they're given their word. That troubles me, Gary. That really troubles me.
Alex, when you hear stuff like that China is now more respected in the world than the U.S., does that bother you at all?
Yeah, like again, this is, growing up, you know, it was instilled, right? That we are the leaders of the free world. And right now, whether it's healthcare, our education system, infrastructure, you name it, we're not number one in any of those categories. And we have to get back to that point where we're actually leading the world in some capacity. And right now we're settling for the average, and those who have continue to grow what they have, and those who do not have continue to struggle. And until we figure out these dynamics that really puts the majority of Hoosiers and the majority of Americans in a position to thrive, we're going to be in this holding pattern, and it's beyond time for us to get out of it. And it's going to take some big ideas and some big thinking, much like you look at the New Deal with under FDR. It's going to take something of that magnitude for us to get back to leading in a way that we have been in historically. And I think it's pertinent that we get to that point.
And Gary, if I can, I want to say something off of what Representative Burton Alex said. There was the fact that people, the working folks, the middle class folks, those people who basically live paycheck to paycheck, they're angry, they're mad, but they don't know who to be mad at. They don't know who has created or caused their problem. And unfortunately, all this static that Trump keeps throwing out is they're attacking me and I'm trying to help you. That just helps push that blame more onto the Democrat sides. They've got a good megaphone. They're able to speak loud, but they're working families are angry. They're angry, very mad, and they just don't know who to be mad at.
James, how do they not know who to be mad at right now?
So, as the centrist here, I think I'll talk about maybe some Democratic culpability here. And I think I don't have a perfect recollection of the timeline here, but if you think about the years leading up to the Trump era, there was sort of this debate where Republicans wanted to talk about American exceptionalism, and Democrats really dismissed that idea that there's anything exceptional about America and just talked about the sins and horrors of the past. And there's obviously validity to those conversations. There's obviously a need to learn from the past. Democrats sort of spoke about those issues at the exclusion of anything positive. And I think something I'm really thinking about a lot right now is we're going to miss American exceptionalism when it's gone. And I think Democrats and progressives are finally seeing that. You see that in the outrage and the fear and the sadness over cuts to science funding, medical funding, arts funding. President Trump is making us poorer, not only economically, but culturally and as a global research power and a science power. And just so many different ways, we are going to lose the standing that we had. America is an exceptional country. It's a place that you can live with a standard of living, a quality of life that just can't be replicated hardly anywhere else. And Democrats should have talked more about that. It's great to talk about what we need to learn from the past, but there should have been more of an acknowledgement along the way that this is a great country. And it really created an opportunity for someone like President Trump to put on a red hat that says, "Make America Great Again," that spoke to the people who felt like this was a great country and they wanted to believe in something. And unfortunately, they believed in someone who wants to tear it down and break the things that are great about this country. But I think Democrats set them up for this opportunity. And unfortunately, I think we're really going to miss a lot of the things that we were great and we just didn't appreciate enough when they were here.
My wife and my daughter are going to Italy at some point this summer. And they said when they get over there, they're going to tell everyone they're from Canada. Good thing or bad thing?
Gary, and James hit it right on the head there.
They've been walking around just going, "Eh?"
Hey, yeah, yeah. So James hit the nail on the head there, and it's the word poverty, and poverty is just not an economic statement. As James pointed out, America is becoming culturally in poverty. We are impoverished. We're becoming morally, some folks say, impoverished. We've got to figure out how do we lift ourselves out of that poverty. And not just economically, but across the point, and that American exceptionalism is that. And the Democrats need to step up because I'll claim with a big badge that we're the party that created that exceptionalism, and we should be the ones that take credit for that. So we need to make sure, as you said, James, it is true. What the Democrats just haven't been very good cheerleaders for their cause.
Alex, any final thoughts on this before I get to our final question?
Yeah, to that point, I mean, I hate to keep going back to it, but I mean, even, during my time in school, I wouldn't even think about saying that I'm from another country, right? This is where I wanted to be. This is the place that has made me, has made my family for generations. Has it been perfect? Absolutely not. But I think, to what comments that have been made, we cannot take our eye off the ball. That though there have been some terrible things happening in history, there has also we've been a world leader, and so we cannot lose sight of that. And moving forward, I surely hope the Democratic Party can figure it out, because this is very much the narrative that so many people see. They don't necessarily align themselves with the Republican Party, but they certainly don't align themselves with the Democratic Party, which is problematic, because we should be the party that is that big tent welcoming so many, but so many don't see themselves within the Democratic Party, which again, it must take some work.
Well,
It's the task at hand.
hopefully and I know they were just being facetious, but if they start bringing home like 6 packs of Molson, then we're probably in trouble.
No doubt.
All right, final question here. This is going to be more of a prediction. The Indiana Pacers, Terry's got his shirt on there. And I will add that my son played the national anthem in game 5 against Milwaukee with the 7 points in the last down 7. He played the national anthem. So he is taking credit for the Pacers run right now, and we're trying to get him in to play in the Eastern Conference Finals. But whether I'm going to guess that it's going to be the Knicks with Jason Tatum going down with a ruptured Achilles. Can the Pacers make it to the NBA Finals, James?
Sure. I'm the worst possible person to predict the NBA, but I mean, obviously they just had such a tremendous series. They're certainly capable.
Terry, the Knicks and the Hicks,
Yeah.
who wins that?
Well, I'll tell you what, momentum is so important in sports and athletics. And right now, the Indiana Pacers have that momentum. So we just hope that momentum carries on. And I've got to stick with my Pacers, man. I can't go anywhere else.
Alex?
Hey, gotta roll with the Pacers. They're gonna make it to the They're gonna make it to the finals, and they're gonna be the champions.
Before we say goodbye, we need to thank our sponsors again, Robin Winston. Thank you, Robin. We have former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson, her newest book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Thank you. Also, we have Congressman Andre Carson. Thank you, Congressman Carson. This list is I'm going to start writing it down. We have Evan Bayh, two-term former governor and U.S. senator. Thank you, Senator Bayh. We have State Representative Cherish Pryor, been with us from the start. Same with Senator Greg Taylor. Our newest additions, the Indiana Citizen. Check them out at indianacitizen.org. And Jump Laundry, they will take care of all your dry cleaning, or they will come and pick your clothes up and get them clean for you without judgment and get them back to you. I am Gary Snyder. They are not. They are James Briggs, Terry Goodin, and Representative Alex Burton. This is the Snide Report, and we are out.